Hey, if you're listening to this, thanks for stopping by. My name is Jarrett, and I run the More Than Blockchain podcast. Now, before the podcast rebranded its name to More Than Blockchain, it was entitled Wi-Fi and Water. And so this episode was originally recorded under the podcast's original name. Episodes 1 through 13 were recorded under the name Wi-Fi and Water. And so if you're hearing this, that's why. Please enjoy the episode, and thanks for checking out the More Than Blockchain podcast. Welcome back, everyone. It has been a while. I have been traveling. This will be the first episode of the podcast that I will be recording abroad. I'm currently in Envigado, Antioquia, which it's close to Medellin. It's not Medellin, but it's close. And on this episode, we are going to look at the third topic that I want to continue to focus on this podcast, and that's community. But we're also going to touch upon climate change and cryptocurrency. And we're going to do it under the framework of looking at the biggest community on planet Earth. This isn't a religion. This isn't a soccer team's fan base. This is Facebook. The monthly active users are around 3 billion. And daily active users are around 2 billion. So let's check it out. I'm Jarrett Carpenter, and this is Wi-Fi and Water. On the 50th episode, I laid out how I want to focus the podcast moving forward on 3 themes: cryptocurrency, climate change, and community. And I'm going to be honest, I've been working on 2 climate change episodes and 1 cryptocurrency episode for about 3 weeks, and I've only gotten halfway with them. And I just haven't figured out how I want to finish each episode. So they've been kind of lingering there. And that's the reason why it's taken me almost 2 weeks now to get out a new episode. But recently I saw some news about Facebook, and that kind of changed everything. Because I said, all right, I'm going to leave those 3 episodes, the 2 climate change and the cryptocurrency, leave them where they are, and I'll come back to them. And I want to talk about Facebook. And that's really what we're going to focus on today. And we're going to be able to talk about the 3 main focuses of the podcast, which are cryptocurrency, climate change, and community, all underneath the umbrella of Facebook. So let's first start with cryptocurrency. Facebook, many years ago, tried to put out their own cryptocurrency called Libra. Now, the project didn't end up coming to fruition because we don't have that yet, but they are going to roll out their own project now, which will be called DM. And no one's really sure exactly when this is going to drop, but my guess is that it will probably happen before the summer of 2022. But really, like I said, no one really knows. If you're interested in getting DM, you can totally go out and buy them today. They're available on certain crypto exchanges. But when I say they're going to drop in the summer of 2022, what I mean is that if you have a Facebook account, you're going to be able to use DM on Facebook and likely on its other platforms, WhatsApp and Instagram, to be able to buy things. And this is going to be pretty revolutionary. But let's leave cryptocurrency for a second and talk about climate change. Now, you're probably wondering, what does Facebook have to do with climate change? Well, because Facebook has 3 billion monthly active users, it has the attention of almost a third, if not getting close to a half of the human population, which is really important because Facebook is essentially just a community bulletin board where we all put up our newsworthy things. And I'm really hoping that as we move forward, Facebook as a platform decides that it's going to continue to crack down on false information. Because unfortunately, there are a lot of people that, well, I guess I should say, there are very few people with a lot of power that benefit from climate change even being a discussion, even just questioning it as though it weren't gravity and already a scientific fact. So there's cryptocurrency, climate change, and finally, community. As Zuckerberg continues to grow his empire, he now has WhatsApp, Instagram, Facebook, Oculus. Let's talk about Oculus for a second. Oculus is essentially a headgear that you put on that will take you into an augmented reality world. And I had the chance to try these on back in 2017, and they're super addicting. And moving forward, Facebook is already starting to realize that if they want to be relevant in 10 years, say, they're going to need to have a huge stake in the metaverse. Now, I've spoken about the metaverse before on this podcast, but essentially the metaverse is going to be almost the realization of the Matrix. It will be a fake world where you'll be able to interact, transact, and kind of live. You'll have your avatar, and your avatar will go around and do things that we currently do. In the past episode talking about the future of malls, I mentioned that in the future, instead of going on oldnavy.com to buy some jeans, and yeah, I guess that's a weird example, but instead of going on to oldnavy.com to buy some jeans, I'll go into the metaverse and I'll walk around with my avatar and I'll find the Old Navy store and I'll go in, and my avatar, which perfectly reflects me and my body, will try on jeans to see if they fit. And then I'll buy them, probably using cryptocurrency, or if it's vis-a-vis the Facebook metaverse, I'll use DM. So I will have taken my dollars, put them into DM, and then I'll buy my jeans and I'll have them sent to my actual physical real world address. Now, I know that sounds far out and crazy, but if you had told me in 2005 that by 2015 something like Uber would have existed, I would have also thought you were crazy. Because in 2005, I would have had a flip phone. So how was I going to order a car from my phone when I couldn't even text my friend a couple sentences without it taking really long time with T9 text? Anyways, enough of the old school references to my college cell phone. The point is, it's really tough for us to predict the future, especially when it comes to technology, because it just moves super fast. And I'm very interested to see how Facebook is going to continue to probably shape most of our futures, whether it's through the cryptocurrency that they've been working on for many years, which will be called DM, or through the way that they're going to manage their platform and the fake and false news and information that is spread there around the climate crisis. And finally, as a community, I'm interested to see how they're going to shape and potentially mold the world we live in the future through their development of the metaverse. They're currently investing a lot of R&D in it, or research and development, to figure out how they can stay relevant and kind of create the metaverse, because they know with 3 billion monthly active users, the Facebook community is the largest on the planet. And if they're able to dictate what the metaverse looks like, does that mean that they're going to continue to kind of dictate what our reality looks like? What do you think? Thanks so much for listening to this episode. And to continue on the theme that Facebook kind of runs everything, you can now listen to Wi-Fi and Water podcast on Facebook. They just created an entire new podcast section on our Facebook page. So be sure to follow us at Wi-Fi and Water podcast on Facebook, Instagram, and YouTube. And we're also now on TikTok at Wi-Fi and Water. No matter where you listen to it, even if you're listening to us now on Facebook, Spotify, Google Podcast, or Apple Podcasts, please subscribe and leave a review. Thanks so much, everyone, and we'll see you next time. Hey, it's Jarrett again. The episode you just listened to was originally recorded under the podcast's first name, Wi-Fi and Water. So please disregard those follow shoutouts and be sure to follow us on social media under our newly rebranded name, More Than Blockchain. And be sure to subscribe to the pod wherever you're listening to it. Thanks for checking out this episode, and I'll see you next time.